Bitcoin's touched 93,700, is pumping. The VIX is chilling, and the bears showed up fashionably late again. Full breakdown in today's video, so don't fade the signal. The markets are moving and liquidity is creeping in as well. Now, as always, the crowd's pointing in the wrong direction. So before they catch on, we're walking through 3 killer charts that matter right now. And before we do get onto this video, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, and don't forget the notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos. Oz, let's start with the obvious. Bitcoin's up, but this move it isn't just random. I mean, walk us through what this price chart is actually showing us in terms of structure and volume. Maybe some of the absorption that you've been tracking.
Yeah, hi Doc, and so it's been a great move for Bitcoin. Actually, a big move in the last few weeks, and we hit about 93 7 roughly right earlier today, and just pulling back a bit. And what I've been saying all along, and this chart I've posted many times on X, is that we have the main pivot level at the bottom, which is around 80,000. And I've always been saying to members, back since February, that, as long as we're holding this pivot level, right, on a higher term time frame, there's really nothing to worry about, even though people are panicking. And back in February, back in March, a lot of panic was going on. We're going down to 60,000, 50,000, and all that sort of 2008 nonsense that was happening, right? But we've been holding this pivot level really, really nicely, in my opinion. Had a few fake outs, but like I said, this is it's a long game. A lot of people flip their bias every so often, but for me, the top is definitely not in. And even though we've been pumping in this last few weeks, we're at a key level here, which is the yearly open, and it's not surprising we're getting a bit of rejection at the yearly open. But I do, if we now pull back a bit, it's not really a big problem. But I think once we get above the yearly open and hold this as support, I think higher targets are coming, and I think and I believe that even this 150 target that I have at the top, I think will surpass that in the cycle ahead. People may think it's not possible. Maybe people think this is a dead cat bounce, but for me, this is just setting up to be, like I've always been saying, vertical repricing happening in front of your eyes, in front of our eyes. Many people thought this was going to break down. I saw so many bearish posts, and this is what happens. Basically, this is what happens when you're on the wrong side of the market. And I'm not saying right now is a good time to buy. You just pumped from 75,000 all the way to 93,000. So if we get a pullback coming in, don't be scared, because a lot of people will get scared on a pullback again before this takes off. Because in my opinion, we could get the wave 2 coming in. This could be the first wave going up, get that wave 2 pullback, and then that wave 3 is going to be something to witness, because it's going to be, in my opinion, very strong. And I'll just take you on to another chart I'm looking at. And these are the levels I also posted on X. I think we were around here at the time, in April, and we got the bounce off the lower range, which is around 76,000. Went below it, wicked below it, then had that close above. Got past the equilibrium range in the middle, which is 85,000, which I think it's a very important range. You can see how many times we rejected off that middle range, and now just pumped straight through it. So the top of this range is around 95,000. You got 95,000. We haven't quite hit it, which is because we're at there's a double resistance, you can say here. You've got the top of the range and the yearly open. So this is why it's a bit of a strong resistance block. But nonetheless, even if we do get a pullback, I see us going a lot higher going into May, June. It's going to be, I think, a great time for the bulls. And I think bears are just on the wrong side. They keep, trying. The problem is I see was when we're down here at the lows, everybody thinks it's going lower, and that's when you get your reversal. I don't really care about the news. Like I've always been saying, these tariff noises and all that sort of stuff is just noise. Ignore it. Focus on the technicals. Focus on the macro picture, which we'll go into next in a second. But yeah, at the moment, if you're looking for an entry right now, I would say, this is the part I've always been saying in the threads as well. This is the worst time when price is basically running away from you, and you're now FOMOing, or you have that FOMO but you just have to stay patient and wait for a pullback. It could be in here where we are now. Possibly it could, breach the 95,000, around 95, 97. But I think the pullback will come. And then again, you might see bears celebrating again, but it's just going to be fuel to go a lot higher in this cycle, in my opinion. But that's a quick breakdown for on the Bitcoin charts.
Now, Oz, look, we've seen this play out before. Okay, we've seen that Bitcoin actually rallies and the VIX stays sleepy, but most don't get the connection, Oz. So break this down for the viewers. Why do we care about Bitcoin VIX, and what does this divergence actually tell us about the market's risk appetite?
Yeah, and there's a few charts, just a couple of VIX charts I'm going to show you. The first one is the VVIX over the VIX, right? And this is basically, in layman terms, it's fear, which is the VIX, against the fear of the VIX. So this is just complete fear, right? And when you have these big spikes coming down, this is 2008. What everybody knows what happened in 2008, the great financial crisis. Then we had a COVID sort of panic. So from 2008, then the next big one, okay, was 2020. Then we got one in 2022, which was the FTX collapse, the stock market collapse, all that sort of stuff happening towards the end of October into November. And now we've had another one, which, in my opinion, in 2008, you had a real reason to be fearful because that was the financial crisis. 2020 was COVID, and that was again a structural. Uh, it was a big problem for the markets. 2022 um, was the bottom of the stock market, and also the FTX and all that sort of collapse was happening in crypto. Now we have one with the tariff scare, which is in 2025, and this is nothing structural in terms of, if you look at the macro, credit markets are not freezing. Everything to me is stable in terms of you can't compare this to 2008, or you can't compare this to 2020. Things are not breaking, and when this kind of fear happens, this is what I have been saying before. You have to be kind of stupid not to at least risk yourself when this happens, because these signals don't happen often, and this is why the bears have been on the wrong side since 75,000. And we'll go on to another chart, right, which is the Bitcoin over Bitcoin over VIX. Actually, before I do that, let's go on to just one of the charts. If I can show you it here, it's the VIX 9 day, and the 9 day chart is basically fair, within the next 9 days. And you got three big spikes here. Back in 2012, 2011, 2012, many years ago, you had the COVID crash, which we all know what happened there. And again, we had this massive spike up here, which went to around 57. If I change it onto the candle view, it actually went to 76. But I like using the lines for this, so it takes out a lot of the noise, right? So you can see clearly that we've had some of the greatest panic, and you're kind of fading this panic when there's no structural damage in the economy. Things might be slowing, yeah, rates are still high, but there's no implosion, and you're fading a move that happened in the stock market because you want $5,000 lower. It makes no sense to me. Everybody, you're so focused on catching the exact bottom. Just position yourself. I keep saying position yourself, because what's to come is going to be something, something bigger than this. I don't really classify this as a massive pump that's happened. It's nice, but what is to come, in my opinion, is going to be shocking. So let's go on to the Bitcoin VIX chart, and this is what I want to show you quickly with the Bitcoin VIX chart. And this for me is very telling what's happening. You've got the 2015 bottom, you've got the COVID crash bottom, and now you've got the basically the tariff bottom, and each move that goes up from here is a lot of gains in the market. And I fully suspect and expect, sorry, that you know from here we're going to get to this top. We're going to get to the top of this channel. and that will be the top of the bull market cycle. And the price will be very, very high, in my opinion. Very high. Uh, the members know exactly what I'm talking about. But I think people are going to be shocked at how high this does go, and fading touches of this kind of trend line. It doesn't touch too often. In the years, since 2015, you've had one, two, three, and now four. So it's not many. Even if, let's just say, you don't, let's just say, you don't believe this chart. You don't really, uh you think, maybe it's different this time. Let's just say, people always say this time is different, but just the risk to reward, you know you can easily have a stop loss at the below, low of the wick of this chart, and say, you know what, it's more of a problem not going in, especially when this happens. Sorry, it's more of a problem staying out than going in. There's more risk of staying out of the market, in my opinion, when this happened 2 weeks ago, on the 7th of April. And now people are feeling the FOMO. But I still think there's a long way to go. I think we're going to get to the top of this. Basically, you could call it a bearish wedge. You can call it what you want, but I think we're going to get to the top of this, and then that will be the top of the bull cycle when it happens. But like I said, this is a chart that I tweeted out a week ago, a couple of weeks ago. There's so many of these charts I tweeted out, and now suddenly people are feeling the FOMO. But I guess that's how it is in the markets.
Now, viewers, just what Oz was mentioning about his tweets, what he's been tweeting out, we go into much more detail and give you a quick heads up before our prices actually do go up on our Alpha Insider tier. They are going up really very soon. So if you're on the fence and you need more detailed insights, member-only videos, access to our Telegram Alpha community, now's the time to lock in at the current rate, and you can get access at themarketsunplugged.com. The link will be down below. Now, Oz, one of the most ones that charts that people are not really watching, although I don't think they're really looking at to the standard VIX and the VVIX either. This volatility index, Oz, it's been a quiet signal that front runs a lot of fake outs. Now, Oz, show us a chart that's telling us what's been happening right now with regards to the others and the VIX, and how does this line up with what we're seeing with regards to Bitcoin's behavior that you just previously showed us.
Yeah, so this is others against the VVIX, right? So the fear of the fear. So this is complete fear, right? And this chart, to be honest, is a masterpiece. I say so myself, because this chart is tracked from the beginning of others. So, and it's held resistance twice, okay, back in 2014, 2016. Once you broke above it in 2017, everybody knows the 2017 craze of, in the alt cycle we had, went to the top, bear market, COVID crash. You know what happened after COVID crash, right? And now this is the first time in this cycle, we almost came close to it, but didn't quite touch it back in June. We've gone below it, wicked below it, and now closing above and moving up. And again, it's that the ratio right now, or others to VIX ratio is 2 billion, right? And for me, this is again, you might again not believe it, but I think we're going to get up to this 20 billion, and obviously, converting that into a market cap we've done, and the members know exactly what I think the market cap of others is going to be by the end of this cycle. And this is why I say I don't think people are bullish enough. When fear gets this low, okay, it has to unwind. And for me, the fear was extreme. Just look at the fear and greed, even in the stock market. I think it was 2 or 3. I think it was the lowest since 2008, or I'm sure it's since 2008 or the COVID crash. But it's one of the lowest readings ever. So that fear now, if nothing's structurally broken, in the market, in the macro market, in terms of credit, repo, and all that sort of stuff. I've got the credit, like I went through in the last video. So watch that if you want to know about credit. This fear will unwind, whether you believe it or not. It's going to unwind, and we're going to get to that to this top of this range, in my opinion, this cycle. And yeah, you're going to have pullbacks along the way, but don't let that distract you from from positioning, and don't worry about catching exact bottoms or exact tops. You know, if you go back to the COVID scenario, whether you bought, here, this is, remember, COVID happened in March, whether you bought in April around here, or, even in May, you had pullbacks, but, you know, f- getting this meat of the move, which was, around 7,000%. I don't think we're going to do 7,000% this time, because as you see, as the market cap gets bigger of others, the gains also are fewer, but nonetheless, you will still see immense gains, in my opinion. So, like I said, like I tweeted, I don't even think I'm bullish enough, but, this is something that you have to uh, analyze yourself, and there are different opinions out there. I know there are different opinions of the Elliott wave bearish count, and all the other sort of opinions are out there. But when I'm looking at structural volume charts, I think there's a long way to go, because for me, if we go, like I said, back to uh, when we have this, VIX fear ratio, this has to unwind. This has to unwind, and when this unwinds properly, when VIX goes into contango mode, which is not at the moment, it's going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be a face melting rally that you probably would have wanted to get into 2 weeks ago. But that's a quick roundup of the charts.
Thanks, Oz. And viewers, if you're serious about tracking real market analysis based on raw data and not just chasing the noise, this is what we do with conviction. So, again, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and smash that notification bell so you're not late next time. And if you want full access to our strategies, weekly breakdown, macro calls, altcoin rotations, all of it, get in on the Alpha Insider tier before the prices do go up, and you'll thank yourself later. That's us signing out. This is Doc, and he's Oz, and we'll see you in the next video.